I did not picture my retirement starting with a chainsaw. The sun had just climbed over the ridge, burning off the last scraps of fog. The air smelled like sap and cold stone and wet leaves. There was a creek somewhere below the trees, whispering over rocks like it had been doing that same routine long before I was born and would keep doing it long after I was gone. When the limb finally dropped and hit the ground with a dull thud, I shut off the saw and listened. Silence, but a good one. Not the hospital waiting room silence, not traffic humming through double-pane glass, just wind sliding through needles and a distant woodpecker banging on some poor trunk. I stood there and let my shoulders drop. For the first time in years, no one needed a report from me. No boss wanted a rush job. No subcontractor was calling about a change order. I was just a retired mechanical engineer with a small pension, a decent 401k, and a beat-up Ford parked in a gravel driveway in the foothills. The cottage itself was nothing fancy. One story, cedar siding, green tin roof that pinged whenever the temperature changed, a porch that wrapped around the front like it was trying to hug the whole mountain. Inside, the floors creaked, the plumbing grumbled, and every window framed trees and sky and nothing else, which was exactly what I wanted. The for sale listing had called it a rustic retreat. Translation: old, worn, but not quite falling apart. I saw something else when I first pulled up the long, cracked driveway. A last chance. I was 56. My knees complained more than my mouth ever did, and my tolerance for people had gone steadily downhill for the last decade. Out here, I could breathe. By the time I went inside, my hands smelled like gasoline and pine. I wiped them on my jeans and stepped into the kitchen. Linda was at the counter with a mug of coffee, hair pulled back, reading glasses low on her nose, as she wrestled with a roll of shelf liner. She looked up as the screen door squeaked behind me. "Well," she said, "did you win the fight with the tree, or is it filing an appeal?" "It surrendered," I said. "Took its punishment like a gentleman." She smirked. "You know you are talking about a branch." Retirement has lowered my standards for conversation. I leaned next to her at the counter and looked out the window over the sink. From here, you could see straight down the hill, past the scrub and boulders, to where the creek flashed between trunks. Morning light soaked everything in that warm gold color you only get for about 20 minutes a day. I had chased that light with a camera when I was younger. Somewhere in a storage unit back in town, there were boxes full of old prints, my ghosts on glossy paper. "You look happy," Linda said softly. "I might be," I said. "Do not tell anybody. It will ruin my reputation." She bumped her shoulder into mine. "Our son is not even here, and you are already in a mood." "Our son," I said, tasting the phrase like it was something from a menu I was not sure about anymore. "He will call when he needs something." She sighed. "Dean." "What?" "I am retired, not lobotomized." She studied my face for a second, then gave up arguing for now and went back to the shelf liner. That was one of the things I loved about Linda. She knew when to pick a fight and when to save her energy for later, smarter than me by a mile, and patient enough to let me pretend otherwise. I poured coffee, sat at the scarred pine table, and let the quiet settle. I could hear the refrigerator hum, the faint tick of the wall clock, the pages of the local newspaper rustling under my hand. It was a far cry from the city condo we had moved out of last week, with its tight parking and tighter neighbors, all of them pretending they liked each other in the elevator. I had spent the last 4 years talking about how one day I was going to buy a place in the mountains. Everyone at work nodded like they had heard that speech from 100 guys before me. Most of those guys never did it. They blinked, and suddenly they were 70 and still commuting. I got out at 56, won that race if nothing else. I was on the second page of the paper, halfway through an article about a new coffee shop in town that promised live music and ethically sourced beans, when my phone buzzed on the table. I did not need to look to know who it was. You spend 3 decades watching someone go from a colicky infant to a man with a mortgage, and you get to recognize their patterns. With Brandon, the pattern was simple. Radio silence, then a sudden burst of affection when he needed something. I stared at the screen anyway. Brandon calling. Linda glanced over. I could feel her attention sharpen, like a dog hearing a distant car door. "Well?" she said. "Look at that. On cue." I hit accept and put the phone on speaker. I did not bother with hello. He came in hard, like always, voice tight and already loaded with stress. "Dad, are you at the cottage?" "Good morning, Dad. How are you? How is retirement treating you?" Those words existed in some other family. "Yes," I said. "I am at the cottage, the one I paid for, with my money and my sanity." "Dad, I do not have time for jokes," he said. "This is serious." "Everything is serious with you," I said. "You even make ordering pizza sound like a hostage negotiation." Linda shot me a look that said, "Be careful." I ignored it. Habit. Brandon blew out a breath. I could picture him, pacing in whatever room he was in, hand pressed to his forehead like an off-Broadway actor. "I need your help," he said. "It is about the house." I felt a little knot begin to tighten in my gut. "What about the house?" "Can you just listen without freaking out?" he said. "I am sitting down," I said. "That is the best you are going to get." He plowed ahead. "I need to use your cottage as collateral," he said. "We are refinancing, and if I do not secure this new loan, we could lose the place. The bank needs more collateral. They said your cottage would cover the gap. I will bring the papers this weekend. It is just a formality." On the other side of the table, I saw Linda's eyes go cold and still. She did not say a word, but she did not need to. The message was loud enough. I took another sip of coffee to buy a second. "My cottage," I said slowly. "The one I bought with my retirement." "Yes," he said. "You will still own it. It is just paperwork. The loan will be in my name. They just need to see you are backing me up. For your grandson, Dad. You do not want him to lose his home, do you?" There it was. The trump card. He tossed it onto the table like he had been waiting to play it in exactly this moment. "Our grandson has parents," I said. 2 of them last I checked. "Dad," he said, voice climbing, "I am trying to fix a situation. This is temporary, I swear. A year or 2, and I will have it all under control. They said if I can show additional collateral, the foreclosure process stops. This is our last chance. If you do not sign, we could lose the house in weeks." Foreclosure. The word landed heavy. Not because I was surprised he was in trouble. Brandon had never met a dollar he did not want to spend twice. But because this was the first I was hearing of it. "You did not mention foreclosure," I said. "I did not want to worry you," he snapped. Linda let out a soft, disbelieving laugh in the kitchen. It made Brandon say, "Is Mom there?" "Yes," I said. "She is applying shelf liner. Apparently her day is going better than yours." "This is not funny," he said. "Can you just listen? The bank guy said if the cottage is in the package, we are golden. They already looked up the property on the county site. It is exactly what we need. You just sign, we file, and boom, crisis averted." "A real estate agent told you all this?" I said. He hesitated just long enough for me to know I had hit something. "There is a guy Melissa knows," he said. "Harold. He works with a lot of clients in tight spots. He has done this a million times." There is a guy Melissa knows. I could feel my temper stir, the way it used to when a contractor promised me a system would work without having the faintest idea what he was doing. "So the bank has not approved anything yet," I said. "This is you and an agent brainstorming with my house as the whiteboard." "Dad, you are making this difficult," he said. "Can you just support your family for once?" I looked at Linda. Her jaw was tight now, her jawline sharper. "For once," I repeated quietly. He must have heard the change in my voice because his tone softened. He tried to slip back into the little boy I used to pick up from soccer practice. Dad, come on, he said. You know I would not ask if it was not serious. I am out of options. I messed up, okay? I admit it. But I am trying to fix it. If I lose this house, your grandson loses his room, his school, his friends, everything. Is your damn cottage more important than him? Like a magician, he made my entire retirement home into a guilt trip. I looked around the kitchen, the sunlight catching dust motes in the air, the crooked cabinet door I had promised myself I would fix, the mug in Linda's hand. Then I told the first big lie of my retirement. I will sign, I said. Linda's head snapped around. She stared at me like I had just told Brandon I was donating a kidney to a stranger. On the phone, Brandon went suddenly silent, as if he had not expected me to agree that easily. You will? He said. I will sign, I repeated. Bring your friend and your magical paperwork this weekend. We will get it done. Thank you, he said, and the relief flooding his voice was so dramatic it might have been touching if I did not know him. Dad, you saved us. I swear I will make this right. You will not regret this. I ended the call. I did not say goodbye. Then I set the phone down and waited for Linda to say something. She took her time. She finished cutting the piece of shelf liner she had been fighting with, pressed it into the cabinet, smoothed out the bubbles, and closed the door. Only then did she turn to me. You are not really going to sign, she said. Of course not, I said. Good, she said. Because if you were, I would have called a lawyer for me. She came to the table and sat across from me. He is lying, she said. He is not telling you the whole story. I know, I said. He has already used something else as collateral, she said. Probably our old house. Probably without even telling Melissa, because he does not tell her anything until it is a crisis. Also no, I said. She narrowed her eyes. Then why did you say yes? Because, I said, feeling something cold and sharp and strangely calm form in the center of me. If he wants to use this place as a bargaining chip, I am going to make sure it is the last time he ever uses me for leverage. Dean, she said slowly, what are you planning? I looked over her shoulder, out the window at the ridgeline. Nothing yet, I said, but I will by the time he gets here. As the story unfolds, hit the hype button, like, subscribe, and write in the comments. Would you forgive them or walk away? We drove into town that afternoon, down the switchback road that clung to the mountain like a nervous cat. The truck rattled over potholes, the engine grumbling as we dropped in elevation. Pines gave way to leafier trees, then to the outskirts of pavement and mailboxes, and the inevitable gas station with faded flags in the window. The town itself was a neat little grid of brick storefronts and clapboard houses, with a main street that looked like it still remembered parades that were not sponsored by telecom companies. There was a diner, an auto shop, 2 churches facing each other on opposite corners like rivals, and a coffee shop with big windows and small tables full of people staring into laptops. This was our new local. We were the retired couple from the city now, with out-of-state plates and a carton of eggs in the back from some farmer whose chickens lived better than most humans. We had errands, groceries, hardware, a plunger because there was always a plumbing surprise. But my mind was not on the shopping list. It was on words like foreclosure and collateral and last chance, replaying in my head like a bad song. It is amazing how fast you can go from peaceful to plotting. 1 minute you are admiring the way the light hits the mountains. The next you are mentally dissecting your son's tone of voice for lies. We parked in front of the grocery store. Linda sat there for a minute, keys still in the ignition, hands resting lightly on the steering wheel. Talk to me, she said. I thought we were getting milk, I said. She did not smile. You did that thing. What thing? The thing where your face goes blank but your jaw works like you are grinding gravel, she said. That is your planning face. You used it when your boss told you they were cutting your department and offering buyouts. You used it when the mechanic told you the old Ford was probably finished. You are using it now. I rubbed my jaw. Might just be arthritis. Dean. I sighed. I said yes to him so he would relax. People make mistakes when they think they have already won. And you are waiting for him to make one, she said. I am waiting for him to show me exactly how deep he dug this hole, I said. Once I know that, I can decide whether I am building him a ladder or a headstone. Figuratively, I added, because I knew that look. She studied me. You are really hurt. Of course I am hurt, I said. I raised a son who thinks the only way I will help my grandson is if he forces my hand and lies to me. That is not a misunderstanding. That is a decision he made about who I am to him. The words sat between us for a moment. Linda nodded slowly. So find out the whole truth, she said. But do it smart. Do not just storm in ranting. You know he will twist that into Dad freaked out. Storming and ranting is your move, I said. I am an engineer. I collect data. She snorted. Sure. Data. That is what we call going through his mess now. But she squeezed my hand before getting out of the truck, and that squeeze said, I am with you, even if I am scared of where this goes. Inside the grocery store, the air smelled like cleaning supplies and overripe bananas. Country music played softly over the speakers, some song about a truck and a heartbreak. We walked the aisles like an ordinary couple buying bread and peanut butter and coffee. People noticed us. In a town this size, new faces stand out. A woman near the canned soup gave us a polite nod and then clearly tried to work out our story from our clothes, our cart, our license plate out the window. Retired? Weekend people? Escaping something? They did not know that my son had just asked me to put my last refuge on the chopping block. At the checkout, the clerk was a teenage boy with a mop of hair and a shirt that said Mountain Mart in cracked letters. You folks new up here? He asked. Bought the old Jennings place, I said. Up on Ridgeview Lane. His eyebrows went up. That is a pretty spot, he said. Heard it finally sold. People been saying that place was cursed. I gave him a flat look. Let me guess. 2 owners in a row could not keep up with the plumbing, so now it is haunted by angry pipes. He laughed. Mostly just kids telling stories. There's a whole thing about a cougar that roams that side of the mountain and screams at night. There is always a cougar that screams at night, I said. It is called a raccoon with ambition. This made him laugh harder. Linda gave me a small look, like, you still know how to be human. That was something. We loaded the bags into the truck and headed to the hardware store next. While she hunted for shelf brackets and a new shower head, I found myself in the small aisle of safes and locks. Little metal boxes that promised security in bold letters, like they could keep out bad luck with a combination code. Looking to keep something from walking away? A voice asked behind me. The man who owned the hardware store was about my age, with a belly that said he had graduated from manual labor to giving advice some years ago. His name tag said Ralph. Looking to keep people from getting into something that is not theirs, I said. Same thing where I am from, he said. You up at the old Jennings place? Heard that finally sold? News traveled fast up here. That is us, I said. Watch your pipes, he said. He cheaped out on the copper whenever he could. You will be under that cabin with a wrench half the year. That is what retirement is for, I said. He chuckled. You from around here originally? City, I said. My wife grew up 2 counties over. We finally escaped. Lot of folks coming out this way, he said, looking for quiet, looking to get away from all the drama. He said drama with the tone of a man who had seen enough of it without leaving town. Drama has a forwarding address, I said. Finds you anyway. He nodded like he understood something more than I had said. You got kids? He asked. 1, I said. Our son. He coming out to see the place? Ralph asked. My kids always show up quick when they think I got something worth inheriting. I smiled. thin. Something like that. He grinned. Well, you need locks. We got them. We also sell security cameras now, if that is your thing. Folks like to keep an eye on their cabins from down in the flatlands. Security cameras, I repeated. Yeah, internet ones, he said. Mount them under the eaves, check everything on your phone. You would be surprised how many people will walk up on a porch if they think no one is watching. I picked up a box and turned it over. The picture showed a camera the size of a thumb extending from a little bracket, all very futuristic for a mountain town. You install these too? I asked. For the right price? He said. But you look like you know your way around a toolbox. I can handle it, I said. He rang me up for the cameras and a couple of extra deadbolts without comment. If he wondered why a guy who had just moved in was suddenly interested in surveillance, he was polite enough not to ask. Back in the truck, Linda raised an eyebrow at the box in my hands. That is not a plunger, she said. Our son is bringing a real estate agent into my house this weekend, I said. I would like a record of how they behave when they think they are alone with the stupid old man. You are going to record them? She said. In this state, I only need consent from one party, I said. Guess who that will be? You looked that up already, she said. Last night, I said, after he texted me a photo of our grandson, just to drive the point home. Her eyes softened for a second at the mention of the boy, then hardened again. He is using that kid like a hostage, she said quietly. I hate that. So do I said. Which is why, if I am going to help, I am going to do it in a way that stops him from pulling this stunt again. Help, she repeated. You still think that is what you are doing? I am helping him see the consequences, I said. That counts. She watched me as I turned the key and started the engine. Dean, she said, promise me something. That depends, I said. Promise me you will not go so far with this that we cannot come back, she said. He is still our son. I gripped the wheel, my knuckles pale. He is our son, I said. But I am not going to let him burn the last safe place we have so he can keep pretending he is in control down there. That is not what I asked, she said. I did not answer. Which was an answer. For the next 3 days, the phones were mostly silent. Brandon did not call. Melissa did not text. No pictures of our grandson arrived, no cheerful updates about his soccer games or spelling tests. The silence was not peaceful. It was charged. A radio station still broadcasting, but on a frequency we were temporarily locked out of. I threw myself into work around the cottage. It was easier to wrestle with loose boards and leaky fittings than with the thoughts looping in my head. I recaulked the bathtub, replaced the rickety railing on the porch steps, trimmed low branches with a pole saw until my shoulders ached. Every swing of the blade took some edge off the anger and replaced it with a different kind of soreness. Linda split her time between practical tasks and the laptop. She checked the county records again, making sure the transfer was still clean. She read about foreclosure processes, about tenants' rights, about what actually happens when a house is taken by the bank. One evening, as the sun smeared orange behind the ridge, she closed the computer with a snap. They are going to lose it, she said. I know, I said. Even without us, they might have had a tiny chance if the lender was merciful, she said. But with the way those numbers look, and the fact that he misled them about having access to this place, mercy is not in the business plan, I said. She pressed her fingers to her temples. I keep thinking about that kid, she said. Packing up his toys, saying goodbye to his room. My chest tightened. I do too, I said. So what do we do? She asked. Do we just watch? No, I said. We watch, and we make sure the fallout does not hit us. And then, when the dust settles, we decide how to be grandparents to a boy whose parents do not want him to see the full picture. You think they will really cut us off? She asked. Harold certainly tried to plant that idea, I said. Brandon is not above using our access to the kid as a bargaining chip. The idea made my stomach turn, but better to face it now than be blindsided later. 2 days after the Cottage showdown, my phone finally buzzed. It was not Brandon. It was an unknown number from the city. I answered. "Hello? Is this Mr. Caldwell?" A male voice asked. "Yes," I said. "This is Martin Ortiz from Capital First Bank," he said. "I am the account manager on your son's mortgage." Of course he was. "What can I do for you, Mr. Ortiz?" I asked. "I understand you declined to co-sign on the restructuring loan we proposed," he said. "That is correct," I said. "I also understand there was some confusion about the availability of your property as collateral," he said. "Mr. Caldwell indicated you were willing to pledge a mountain cottage you own." "There was no confusion on my end," I said. "I was never willing to pledge this property. My son made representations without my consent." "I see," he said. "And the property was recently transferred to your wife?" "Yes," I said. "For estate planning reasons." I could almost hear him raising an eyebrow on the other end. "Mr. Caldwell, I hope you understand that transferring assets when there is an outstanding foreclosure process on a family member's property can sometimes be viewed as an attempt to shield them from creditors," he said. "That can complicate things." "It was not transferred to shield my son," I said. "It was transferred to shield my wife and myself. Any attempt by my son to use it as collateral was unauthorized. If you need confirmation of that, I have a recording of him and his agent discussing strategies to pressure me." There was a small pause. "I see," he said again, slower this time. "You have that conversation recorded?" "In this state, I am allowed to record conversations I am part of," I said. "On my own property. I did so because I was concerned about misrepresentation." Another pause. "I would like to schedule a meeting with you," he said. "In person, if you are willing." "You want to drive up the mountain?" I asked. "I can meet you in town," he said, "or at our branch in the county seat." "I can come down," I said. "I assume this is about cleaning up the story." "It is about making sure the bank understands the situation accurately," he said, "and about making sure we are not making decisions based on incorrect assumptions." We set a time for the next day at the branch. After I hung up, I sat at the table and stared at my own reflection in the dark TV screen across the room. Linda came in, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Who was that?" she asked. "The bank," I said. "They would like to hear my side of the fairy tale." She sat down across from me. "Are you going to play them the recording?" she asked. "I am going to let them hear enough to know that any promises made in my name were made without my consent," I said. "What they do with that is their decision." "You are not doing this to punish him," she said. "I am doing this to keep us out of legal blowback from his lies," I said. "That is the official line. What I feel on top of that is my problem." She reached across the table, took my hand. "Do not let them drag you into feeling guilty," she said. "That is their whole game." "I know," I said. The next day I drove down to the branch. It was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a vape shop, because that is what the American financial system looks like now. Inside it was cool and bland. Beige walls, motivational posters about planning for your future, a rope line for customers that was currently empty. A young woman at the front desk waved me toward an office with a glass wall. Mr. Ortiz stood as I entered. He was in his 40s, dark hair, neat suit. His handshake was firm but not aggressive, his eyes sharp behind rimless glasses. "Mr. Caldwell," he said. "Thank you for coming." We sat. He had a file on the desk with my son's name on it. It was thick. "I will get right to it," he said. "Your son presented us with a plan that involved restructuring his mortgage and some related debts. That plan assumed additional collateral would be pledged by a family member. You. When my team pulled the property records, Your name was indeed associated with a mountain cottage. A week later, ownership was transferred to your wife. That raised questions. I imagine, I said. I want to know from you whether you ever authorized your son to speak on your behalf about that property, he said. I did not, I said. He told me about the idea after the fact. He used my grandson as moral leverage. When I discovered he had already begun foreclosure proceedings, I made the decision to remove any ambiguity. I transferred the cottage to my wife, so that even if I changed my mind under pressure, I would not have the authority to sign. He watched me carefully. That is an unusual step, he said. My son has an unusual relationship with the truth when he is under stress, I said. He allowed himself the smallest of smiles. May I ask why you recorded the meeting at your cottage? He said. Because his agent made it clear in a previous conversation I overheard that they planned to pressure me emotionally, I said. I wanted an accurate record in case they later claimed I had agreed to something I had not, or that I had misled them. May I hear it? He asked. I pulled out the small recorder, set it on the desk, and played a portion. Not the whole thing. Just enough to show Harold talking about my age, about using my grandson as leverage, about how losing my relationship with my son was the implied threat. Ortiz listened without interrupting. His face did not change much, but I saw his jaw tighten. When it reached the part where Harold said, "Do you really want to spend your golden years as the villain in your grandson's bedtime stories?" I paused it. That is enough, Ortiz said quietly. He sat back, tapped a pen against the file. Mr. Caldwell, he said, I cannot give you details about your son's account beyond what you already know. But I can say this. The bank makes decisions based on risk. Your son is currently a high risk. The plan he proposed with Mr. Briggs was optimistic. That is a polite word, I said. He smiled faintly. Given what I have heard today, he said, it is unlikely we will move forward with any new loans tied to your name or your wife's. There will be no attempt to pursue your cottage as part of his obligations. Your decision to document this interaction was wise. So you are going to proceed with the foreclosure, I said. We are going to proceed according to policy, he said. I suspect you already know what that looks like. I did. Notices, deadlines, eventually an auction. Then someone else living in the house I once thought would be where my grandson opened his Christmas presents. If you are concerned about your grandson's living situation, Ortiz said, you might consider talking to a lawyer about his rights. There are resources for children in these situations. Thank you, I said. As I drove back up the mountain, the sky was painfully clear. No clouds, just blue and sun and distant ridges layered like paper cutouts. At the cottage, Linda was on the porch, waiting. Again. Well, she asked. They are not touching this place, I said, and they know exactly how we feel about being used. And the house? She asked. On track to be someone else's, I said. She sighed. I knew that was coming, she said. Still hits hard. It will hit harder for them, I said. We need to be ready for the fallout. We did not have to wait long. Brandon called that night. This time, he did not open with a demand. He opened with something worse. Dad, he said, they are going through with it. I know, I said. You talked to them, he said. It was not a question. Yes, I said. They called me. They wanted clarification. Did you tell them not to trust me? He asked. I told them you made promises with my property without my consent, I said. They made their own conclusions. On the other end, I heard something that sounded like a choked sob. You stabbed me in the back, he said. No, I said. I refuse to let you use my back as a step stool to climb out of a hole you dug. You and your metaphors, he spat. You think you sound so wise. I do not think I sound wise, I said. I think I sound like a man who is done being treated like an ATM with a heartbeat. Silence. Then, "They set a date," he said, "for the auction. We have to be out by then." "Have you told your son?" I asked carefully. "Not yet," he said. "How do you suggest I tell a 9-year-old that his home is gone because his grandfather would not sign some papers?" By changing the subject, by shifting blame. He was an expert at that. "You tell him," I said slowly, "that you took on more house than you could afford, that you tried a lot of things to fix it, some of them smart, some of them desperate, and that in the end, you had to make a hard choice and move to a place you can handle." "You think he will understand that?" he asked, voice rising. "He is a kid." "He will understand honesty," I said. "Kids always do, even when we think we are smoothing the edges." "You are unbelievable," he said. "You burn the bridge and then lecture me about honesty." "I am not burning the bridge," I said. "I am refusing to let you drag my end of it into a canyon." "You keep using those little sayings like that makes you the hero," he said. "I am not the hero of your story," I said. "I am the antagonist who finally said no. If that makes me the villain for a while, fine." He swore. "Melissa says we should never let you see him again," he said. "She says, if you care so little about his life now, you do not get to be part of his life later." The words hit like a punch to the chest. I had expected them. They still hurt. "And what do you say?" I asked. "I say I do not know," he said, voice suddenly tired. "I am so damn tired, Dad." "I know," I said. "You do not know," he said. "You are up there in your magic forest with your perfect little house. You sleep in, you take walks. We are down here drowning." "You are drowning because of choices you made," I said. "You are an adult. You took risks with debt, with a business, with a house. Now the cost is due. That is not on me." "You used to be on my side," he said. "I am on your side," I said, "just not on the side of the lies you tell yourself." He hung up without saying goodbye. I sat there, phone still in my hand, staring at the dark screen. "How bad was it?" Linda asked from the doorway. "They are blaming us," I said, "threatening to keep our grandson from us." She nodded, lips pressed together. "He is cornered," she said. "Cornered animals snap." "I know," I said. "We have to be very careful now." "Careful how?" she asked. "Careful about what we say," I said. "Careful about what we post, about what we text. He will be looking for ways to make this our fault in every direction." She sat down beside me on the couch. "We cannot control what story he tells," she said, "but we can control what we do." "What I want to do is drive down there, put my hands on his shoulders, and shake some sense into him," I said. "I know," she said softly, "but what you are going to do is wait. Let the house go. And then, when the dust settles, we will see what is left of the relationship." I clenched and unclenched my fists. "I hate waiting," I said. "I know," she said, "but you are good at it when you need to be." She was right. Years of project management had taught me patience in the face of delayed parts and stubborn inspectors. This was just another kind of project, a horrible personal one. A week later, we heard through a mutual acquaintance that the auction date was set. The story made its way around the network of friends and neighbors faster than any official notice. We did not hear it from Brandon. He did not call again. We knew he was moving out when our granddaughter's mother, a woman who lived 2 streets over from them and overshared on social media, posted a photo of their front lawn piled with boxes. The comments were brutal in that sanctimonious way only people who think it will never happen to them can manage. Should have lived within their means. They always acted better than everyone. He was always flashing that car. What did he expect? Not a lot of sympathy in suburbia when you stumble. A week after the move, my phone buzzed with a different kind of message, a video, sent from an unknown email address. The subject line said, Thought you should see this. I opened it. The footage was shaky, shot through the blinds of a living room window. It showed Brandon in the driveway of a different, smaller house, arguing with someone. Melissa stood nearby, arms crossed, face hard. Their son was on the porch, watching. He looked small and confused. I did not know who shot the video or why they sent it to me. Maybe someone thought I would enjoy seeing my son knocked off his pedestal. Maybe someone thought I needed the reminder that he was hurting too. I closed it. "We are not watching that," I told Linda. "Agreed," she said. Instead, we focused on what we could control. We met with a lawyer of our own, one who specialized in family issues. We talked about grandparents' rights, about what recourse there was if our son decided to cut us off from our grandson out of spite. The lawyer was blunt. "As long as both parents agree to keep you away, there is not much you can do without proving harm," she said. "Courts do not like to insert themselves into functioning households just because grandparents are disappointed. So, if he uses our access to that kid as a bargaining chip, we are stuck," I said. "Emotionally, yes," she said. "Legally, unless there is abuse or neglect, probably. What you can do, however, is keep documentation of your interactions, messages, emails, in case the narrative ever turns into 'they abandoned us.'" "So we start keeping receipts," Linda said. "You start keeping receipts," the lawyer agreed. So we did. Every text from Brandon, every email from Melissa, every social media post in which we were tagged, however indirectly, we collected them in a digital folder, not to weaponize later, just to know that somewhere there was a record of what actually happened. I also started something else. I began writing, not a formal letter, not a legal document, just a document on my computer labeled simply, "For him." It was not for now. It was for 10 or 15 years from now, when my grandson would be old enough to ask his own questions. I wrote down the facts as cleanly as I could, when Brandon called, what he asked, what I did, what I refused to do, how much I had helped before, how many times I had said yes, how much it hurt to say no. I kept my sarcasm out of that one. Just the bones of the story. If my grandson ever wanted to put flesh on them, that would be his choice. Linda read it one night, sitting by the window while rain pattered on the glass. "It is fair," she said. "Maybe even kinder than he deserves." "It is for the kid," I said. "Not for him." She nodded. "You know what this is, right?" she said. "You are not just protecting the house anymore. You are protecting the story." "Someone has to," I said. Autumn crept in fast. The leaves on the hillside flared red and gold, then dropped in overnight gusts that left the trees bare and the ground covered in a crunchy carpet. The air turned sharper. The days shrank. The cottage took on the smell of wood smoke and wool sweaters. We did not see Brandon or his family. We heard, through that same loose network of mutual acquaintances and social feeds, that they had moved into a rental across town. Smaller house, less impressive zip code, different school for our grandson. We did not comment on any posts. We did not like anything. We existed just outside their visible life, like ghosts. Then, one Saturday morning, as I was stacking firewood by the shed, the crunch of gravel in the driveway made me look up. A car was coming up the hill too fast. I recognized the shape immediately. Brandon's sedan. It fishtailed slightly on the last turn, then straightened as he slammed the brakes in front of the porch. "Dean!" Linda called from the kitchen window, alarm in her voice. "I see him," I said. He got out before the engine fully died. He looked worse than last time. Dark circles under his eyes, hair longer, clothes rumpled. "Dad!" he shouted, already moving toward me. "What the hell did you do?" My heart sank. Here we go again. "What are you talking about?" I asked, setting down the log in my hands. "You talked to the bank again," he said. "You sent them that recording." "I did," I said. You had no right, he said. I had every right, I said. They asked for clarification. I provided it. He stopped a few feet away, breathing hard. His hands were fists at his sides. They called me in, he said. Sat me down like a child, played me my own words back to me. Do you have any idea what that feels like? Yes, I said. I have been listening to your words for years. They used it to shut down any chance of a new loan, he said. They told me I had misrepresented my position. My lender called me reckless. Reckless, Dad. I said nothing. It did not require an answer. Because of you, he said. No, I said, because of you. Because you told them you had access to something you did not. Because you walked into my house with a man who specializes in preying on panic and tried to pressure me. He took a step closer. We were almost chest to chest now. You humiliated me, he said. You made me look like a liar. You are a liar, I said. I just turned on the lights. His jaw tightened so much I could hear his teeth grind. You think you are so righteous, he said. Up here in your little cabin with your wife who thinks you hang the moon. You do not get it. You do not know what it is like down there. I know exactly what it is like down there, I said. I spent 30 years commuting into that mess. I spent 3 decades paying for houses and braces and uniforms and vacations. You act like I do not understand struggle. I do. I also understand responsibility. That is the part you keep skipping. He laughed, short and bitter. Responsibility, he said. That is rich coming from a man who just tossed his son to the wolves. I did not toss you, I said. I stepped out of the way when the wolves you invited in showed up. You always have a clever line, he said. Guess what? It does not help me pay rent. That is not my job, I said. Your job is to be a husband and a father and a man who keeps his promises within his means. And what is your job? He said. To sit up here and judge? To play gatekeeper with your precious cottage? My job, I said slowly, is to protect what is left of our life from your bad decisions, and if I can, to protect our grandson from learning that the way to handle problems is to find a relative and squeeze. He shook his head, almost laughing. You know what Melissa said when I told her what you did? He asked. She said, now we know who he really is. Now we know when push comes to shove, he chooses his own comfort over us. She is entitled to her story, I said. I will not stop her from telling it. And our son? He said. You really think he is going to want to come hang out in this cabin with the man who could have saved his home and chose not to? I think, I said, that whenever he does come here, he will be coming to a place that still exists because I did not let you gamble with it. He lunged forward then. For a second I thought he was going to hit me. His hand came up, fingers curled. My muscles tensed. Then his hand closed on my jacket instead. He grabbed the front, bunching the fabric, pulling me closer. You do not get to talk about him, he said, voice low and shaking. You do not get to play grandpa if you are not willing to be dad. In the doorway of the cottage, I heard Linda. Brandon, she said sharply, let go of him. He did not immediately. His grip tightened. I met his eyes. You are scaring your mother, I said. For a second, shame flickered behind the rage. He released my jacket like it burned him and stepped back, breathing hard. This is not over, he said. You think you can just walk away from us? You think you can just sit up here and pretend like you did not ruin everything? No. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. Then make sure you include the part where I helped you with your first down payment, I said. And your second. And the time I paid for your car repair so you could keep that job you later quit. And the thousands I put into your restaurant because you said this time would be different. Make sure you tell them about every check I wrote before I said no. He faltered. Anger warred with something like embarrassment. You just cannot help yourself, he said. You always have to bring up the past, make me feel small. You are making yourself small, I said. I am just holding up the mirror." He turned, stalked toward his car, then whirled back suddenly. "And do not bother coming to see him," he said. "If you do not value his home, you do not get to be in it." He yanked open the car door, slid in, slammed it. The engine roared, gravel sprayed as he reversed, swung the nose around, and hurtled down the driveway. I stood there, watching his taillights disappear through the trees, feeling like someone had scooped out the inside of my chest and left a hollow shell. Linda came down the steps and put a hand on my arm. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I am fine," I said automatically. "You are not," she said. I looked at her. Her face was tight, eyes bright with tears she was not letting fall yet. "He tried to grab you," she said. "He did not hit me," I said. "That is not the point," she said. "He lost control. That is new." "It is not new," I said. "He has lost control before, just never in front of you." She closed her eyes for a second. "What now?" she asked. "Now," I said. "We wait again." "I am so tired of waiting," she said. "So am I," I said. "Luckily, I think we are close to the end." She looked at me sharply. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means," I said, "that he is about to hit the one wall he cannot talk his way through. And when he does, we will be there, not to pick him up, but to make sure he does not drag his son down with him."